Okay. Welcome, everyone. It is July 27th, I believe, 2026. And thank you so much for coming today. The three of you, and then all the people that will listen afterwards, and then all the people that will receive the radiance of our intentional vibrational presence that we're radiating out into the cosmos. So we're not limited to just the planet itself. And something I saw recently on the Stellar Nations was how it was probably one of the books I've been reading, and they talked about how, yes, the planetary our planetary focus is so important, but also what's the stellar um, connection is we have to have both of those. We can't just have the planet. Most people are focused on the planetary because that's what we're most comfortable with. And yet we have to become comfortable with the stellar connection as well. And so, and so that was actually my motivation for doing we're doing the focus with tree consciousness, like I said in the video I sent out or the email I sent out. And um, I had an experience a few days ago with with a class that or a meeting that Leslie held with the Stellar Nation group, and she had a how would you call her, Leslie? She's like a shaman, stellar shaman, maybe was
Yeah,
Julian.
Julianne's just a very heart-centered dream, kind of dream guide, meaning your dreams aren't your, you create your reality. We create our reality. So, bridging that feeling that dreams are over there or imagination is over there, that's our tool to create our reality. So she really grounded us and guided us through. And Jennifer was there. So
That's right. And then
we,
I told Colorado about this. So, um, but anyway, I'm going to describe a little bit about what happened for me because it really has to do with the stellar influence, and also the tree consciousness, specifically the cedar trees. So in this, Julian took us into a 15-minute guided journey, I guess you would call it. And she had us pick our own place for the journey. And I really didn't have, I didn't really have any, like, oh, I'm going to go this place. All of a sudden, it just came to me to go to the cedar grove on our land here at Blissful Earth. And um, I've had lots of connections with these cedar trees, but it's really fluctuated. Sometimes it's really strong, and sometimes I'm just totally disconnected from them. And when I go up into the grove, I get this feeling of I see the trees, I see their trunk, and I see their needles, and I see all the physical, and I can't connect with them energetically. I'm just for some reason I have a really hard time with them, and I pretty much have had for ever since I've lived here. But one time I was in Peru with some doing some shamanic work there, and while I was in Peru, the cedar grove started reaching out to me like stronger than I've ever realized them before. It was like so strange because I didn't have that connection here. But when I'm thousands of miles away, I get this connection with them. And when I came back and I went up to the grove and I asked them, I said, why all of a sudden can I connect with you now? Or when I was in Peru and I couldn't connect with you before. And this they said it was probably one of the trees. Sublimina is like the main tree I connect with. She said she said, um, she said, well, when you went to Peru, you got more connected. You were more in tune with your vibration and able to connect with us. But we've been trying to connect with you ever since you arrived here at Blissful Earth. And so now you were finally able to do that because of your vibration was higher. And so that happened a couple, that was about 2 or 3 years ago, but I had lost that connection again. So anyway, so when I started doing this shamanic journey that Julian was leading, I I said, oh, I guess I'll do the Cedar Grove. And I didn't realize, and then some things happened. I don't even remember what happened during the journey, but but when we were done, and Julian was asking people to report what they experienced, 3 or 4 people went, and then she said, "Well, we had time for one more." So nobody said anything. So I thought, well, I didn't really experience very much, so I'll go ahead. So I started talking, and all of a sudden, the love for some reason communicating with the group really connected me to the cedar trees, and their incredible love just came into my heart, and I just started crying with just love and relief and joy that I was receiving their love, that they were using it, they were coming into me, and I shared that, of course, with the group, and then the class, and then it was over. Um, but it was an amazing. Um, what I learned from that is that these that I need, in order to connect with the cedar trees especially, I need to put myself in a place where I'm in touch with that vulnerability, because it's really my, especially with the cedar trees, that it's my vulnerability, that those vulnerable emotions are how I connect to them. And if I'm not connected to that vulnerability, then I don't connect to them. And and also they come through. So so if you've read my book, you'll you'll remember the silver grove. So the silver trees are an etheric trees, and they surround the earth, and their roots wrap around the core of the earth, and these cedar trees are the council of the stars, and they have sapphire leaves, huge sapphire leaves, like the size of big leaf maple leaves. I picture them, and the star consciousness comes through these silver trees, and these trees um, sustain the energies of the earth using the stellar energies. They bring the stellar energies down, and they transmit them into the earth, and they sustain the um, the the energy of the earth energy, and especially now this higher vibrational energy. And then for me, and then the cedar grove is beneath this grove of silver trees, and the cedar trees take that energy from the silver grove, and they transmit that into the earth, and they transmit that into me, and that and I believe that's what I was experiencing on Saturday when I was, in the class and doing that shamanic journey, and I was reporting what I was experiencing. That's what I was experiencing, was this incredible love that comes down from the stars, from Creator, and and comes, the trees bring it down, the silver trees, and then the cedar trees get it, and then the silver trees transmit it into me, into my consciousness, and so that's why it's so powerful for me to be, when I shared that a couple of days ago. So I'm actually kind of feeling it right now. So just give me a moment to just take this in. Okay. Does Does anyone, Leslie, do you have anything, or Jennifer? You guys were there when I was sharing that in the class. I was wondering if you were picking up on anything about that.
I just felt the profound depth of your emotion and the connection you had made. Mainly, that was just overflowing.
Mm.
So, but yeah, I mean, that is a beautiful thing. And there are very specific stellar worlds where we have the Council of Trees, all set up, and they do radiate from like the center of the cosmos to the center of Earth. And trees do actually, they're very attenuated to humans. Well, they're sentinels because they're holding all, they're here, they're watching, they're record keepers of a lot more history than we could remember. And I mean, Ellen, she says it in the Silver Wheel too, really, that when we start getting the right apprehension, which sounds like you got that specifically then, that we can see how everything around us, rocks and trees and everything, is just layers of light that's information, which is really what's coming from the stellar worlds. These there each one is just like a nodal point of consciousness sending out different kinds of information or energy packets and light. So, but Eleanor was saying, well, yes, everything, all these sentinels are waking up. That's what she said. The elven elders are really in these sentinels. And then the star Deneb, which is on the tail of the Cygnus constellation, that constellation is over England, but that used to be our pole star. And maybe is meant to be. There may be a little distortion, but it's not. But anyway, that aside, that's actually that star has been right around that star in the early 1900s. They started some kind of scientists started picking up radio waves coming from there, and there's a lot written about. Um, there's a site in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe, which was just kind of rediscovered in the late 90s. It was buried, and there's a lot of mystery around it, but it points to Deneb, and there's a man, Andrew Collins, who writes a lot about this, but they basically feel that the radio frequencies coming from around Deneb are they work with our DNA. They help our evolution, our physiological and otherwise evolution. And right near there, there's something called the dark rift. And in native cultures, it's always been kind of thought it's a portal for coming and going, death and birth. So I'm just telling you a lot of stuff. I don't know if it all adds up, but there's just a big mystery. Well, what I want to say on Demid, everything about the Cygnus constellation is, if we look at the birds as a stellar nation, which is all about the gift to us as humans and the messengers to us on many levels. There's a whole flight path through the constellations that is like an infinity symbol that represents our development of consciousness. And when we finally, I can retrace it. The first is where the eagle takes us up to Vega to learn the right use of power. The right use of power is being able to channel the divine frequency. Now, we're learners. We often don't, we make mistakes. So the next step is the Raven constellation, which is kind of a karmic chamber of mirrors where we have mirrored to us what the mistakes are. There's like 5 essential kind of uh, you know misuses of power. Then we come into the flight of the birds comes to the Phoenix, which is all about burning. You have to burn and release it. You have to release everything to be reborn. And with that, then you come to the Dove constellation, which is like entering the light and having a renewal. But then when you come to the Cygnus constellation at the end of this infinity path flightway, that's like the entrance to life itself. Like, what is life that the divine created for us? Because the head, heart, and then the tail of the Cygnus constellation are populated by fairies and elves and all the elementals. And really, in the beginning, the creator, if we go with Stellar Nations cosmology, the creator gifted us as cosmic humans with the birds, bird nation, the messengers that show us all this, but also the elementals. They are co-creators with us. Like everything was co-created with us. But there was a time where um, that kind of kingdom withdrew because we had such a lack of humans, like especially after Atlantis, of understanding and respecting and seeing them. So there was kind of like, okay, we will become invisible. Not that they're not there, but we don't work with them the same way. But Den of Adige is actually incredible because it's the home of all the cosmic trees, where and nine master elves live in them. It's really kind of trippy to her. And then it's where the fairies. The fairies are like the consciousness that can bring the invisible into the visible, into creation. Um, and so each one of those stars in the Cygnus has something going on, but they're all fairies and elves. But the thing that's beautiful about it is after you go through this pathway of development with the human consciousness, it's like Bayonetta to go, then you enter to life itself, which is really this whole roundedness with all of creation, we understanding that we're co-creators and part of it. So yeah, I guess I
Wow,
would just leave it there.
what a beautiful, what a beautiful synopsis of the how the stellar nations, all these different aspects, the elementals and the birds and all that play into what is happening here on the earth. And it's so important for us to be able to take that energy in. It's like, and again, I think that's what was happening for me with the cedar trees because they're like my main conduit. I tap right into their heart and they just love um, my relationship with them. I mean, they appreciate me so much. They were, at one point, they told me that I was precious. They said, "You are so precious to us." I like, what? I said, a human being has never said that to me, that I was precious, and here these trees are telling me that I'm precious. It was like quite a shock. I was still kind of amazed that they feel that kind of, and the cedar trees feel this feminine love, and the Douglas fir trees feel they experience their thing is more um, sovereignty and how to come into our sovereignty, whereas the cedar trees are more about experiencing tremendous this feminine love. So it seems like each different species has their own energy. So
What is the tree that speaks to you so deeply on your land, and you have a name for it? Is it a
yeah,
Douglas fir?
that's a Douglas fir. Its name is Brennan. Yeah.
That's right. Because when I was there and I went on a walk and I spent a little time with Brennan, I have a harder time feeling him. And I looked over at the cedar tree and I'm like, oh my God, that's his female companion. And I still can't really apprehend like you can, but I really felt that tree and I went and sat with that, and it was very feminine, that cedar tree. And I even got her name, but now I forget. It started with an A.
Sublimina is her name.
Is it? Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, yeah, I got a different name from her, but it doesn't matter because I'm not really that attuned, but in the sense I was just in that marginal difference, or not, it's not marginal, but I could feel that at least on that level, very much, very, very different energy. But those two felt like such a complementary pair somehow. The cedar and the Douglas fir there on
Yeah,
your
well, they're kind
land.
of like masculine and feminine energies.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
only about 40 feet away from each other. They've been there a long time. I think the Douglas fir tree it's about 120 feet tall and it's about 6 feet in diameter. So it's probably 80 or 90 years old, I would guess.
Then, we could say hypothetically, trees hold so much memory and they hold our human emotions as a service. And if
Yes.
a tree dies, it etherically will stay there doing it. And then until it can get planted in a nearby sapling or something that comes up or some other medium, it will just hold it etherically. So who knows what's happening out there? Right.
Yeah, well, actually, I have another story I want to tell about the emotionality, how it holds that. And I had a person living here. I'll just call him Bill. That was his name. But so Bill was living here for about a year and a half. And then he was such a pain in the ass. And I just like, he didn't have any money and he was kind of had a chronic illness. So I was like, it was really hard for me to kick him out, you know? And so, so we had this dog, a big dog, and the dog was really sweet, but she would always beg when I was cooking, and that's like a pet peeve I have that I don't like. I don't like dogs begging, especially when I'm cooking. I just find it really annoying because I've had a dog. I never let it beg like that. And and then one day I said to him, I said, Bill, could you please take care of the dog? She's begging again. And he lost it. And he comes at me with his fist cocked and his chest out, and he starts pushing up against my chest. And I just like stop. I just said, no, this is not going to happen. And I just set this boundary. And I was really in my sovereignty. And I said no. And he could feel my energy, and he backed down. And and right at that second, I knew that that was what I needed in order to get him out of there. Because with that kind of violence, you know, threatening me was like, okay, no, he's done. He's out of here. And I told him right away, I said, Bill, this is it. You're done. I'm not going to take this kind of violence, this threat. And so you have 30 days to vacate. And so he was really pissed. I wrote a letter, like, you know, stating that he had 30 days, and he took it in front of me and he burned it. He lit it on fire and threw it in the fireplace. And so I said, look, I'm going to leave. And so I go up to Brennan, and I'm sitting there with Brennan, and he says, oh yeah, I know what happened. And I said, what do you know? And he said, well, I'll tell you. He said, I I created that scene. I created you telling him about his dog, and I created him getting really angry with you. And he said I knew that you would be able to stop it energetically. So I wasn't afraid for your safety. I knew you'd be able to do that. And I also knew that that would be the last straw, and he was gone, that you would be able to tell him to leave and you'd have no reservations about that. And so I said, really? I said, you did all of that? And he said, yes. He said, I'm always helping because I've had so many people live here and had great difficulty, challenges with so many people of emotional challenges because they would project all this, you know, parent stuff, or they would project, you know, I was like the authority figure. So I'd get all these projections and anger and just really weird behavior stealing from me. I mean, just incredible things. And but Brendan told me that he knew everything that was happening. Speaking of emotionality and presence, he knew everything that was happening on our land, and he was supporting everyone, not just me. He said it was supporting everyone on our land. And he said he knows everything about all of us. He knows everything about our past, everything about our present, and everything about our future. And he said that's going to continue into the future, of course, that his presence here and his dedication and determination to work with us. And so, so that whole thing was just like blew my mind that it would be so involved with our emotional life that it would know all that. You know, how can a tree know all those things, you know, and be so involved? And we have no idea it's even happening. I mean, now I know. Like when I have a conflict or something here, I know I actually call on him to help, and he does. But before I had no idea that he was helping, and it's so advantageous to know that he's here and that he's able and willing to um, just be of service. I mean, he's really of service to not just to us here on the land, but he's in service to probably all the humans in the area, not just us. And he brings people here, and then he sends them away when their time is up. He gets them to leave. He does something to that causes them to leave. And so that I'm like really grateful when that happens. I'm grateful when people come, and then I'm grateful when they leave, especially the ones that are so problematic, like Bill was. So, yeah, that's
There's another um, group I'm in, and the oak tree is very revered as an incredible, master energy. But the legend behind the oak tree from that group and some connections they have, whether it's true or not, that um, the oak tree is in that form, but it was a human who had been through a human type person, or I don't know, human in another galaxy who had been through a lot and done a lot, and it failed quite a lot. And in its maturation and evolution came into our galaxy, and its whole purpose was to be of service, learn with what all it had learned, and came into this galaxy and elected to be the oak tree and serve in that format, as a cosmic tree and the holder of it, like just what you were talking about. So whether that's true or not, it's kind of nice that there's a lot of supporting legend in the same veins.
oh, I think that when there's legends like that, Leslie, that there's so much truth to it. They don't just come out of nowhere. They come from people having experience. Is that an oak tree? What is that, Jennifer?
It's the last night I was called to go to my Substack, and it's the Angel Oak in Charleston, and it's so old and ancient, and as you can feel the energy. But I just was doing a deep dive. I mean, it's stuff we already know, but as within, so without. And if you think about our vagus nerve, it's like all this branching, like below and above, like a tree, and yeah, there's just so much in our arteries are like tree branches as well. And I don't know, this world is magic. It really, and the whole cosmos is magic, but we just in a seed, there's so much potential in life and mystery, like divine spirit in the seed. It's not just the seed, the physical seed, it's there's divinity within that's what makes it's the that causes the there sparks the life that makes the thing grow. I don't know. Anyway, I just had to show that picture because I it goes with the trees. Hmm. Oh, here's the other image. It's showing within the body and also, a tree, how there's very similar. I don't know. I'm not very good at showing things on here, but yeah, and
Yeah.
I know you've seen things like that before
Oh
everywhere.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the root system and the organisms, the nervous system into the earth where it spreads out and it connects all the life, all the plants are all connected in this energetic system. It just looks like our human nervous system.
So beautiful.
Hey, Kalana, how you doing?
Hi, I love this conversation so much.
Hey,
And
dear, could you I'll turn my mic up. Okay, go ahead.
sorry, mine was down a
Oh,
little bit.
there you go. That's better.
Yeah,
Perfect.
sorry. I was saying I just love this conversation so much. And I also wanted to circle back to what you were sharing earlier, um, Leslie, about the constellations and I think Bliss, you were talking about it. Uh, I have to share this image. I don't know if it'll come through. Oh, it might not. Because of my screensaver. Mm-mm. Oh,
Oh, there you go.
oh, let me
Oh,
see if I
nice.
can get it.
You
I
had
might have
it.
to come back.
There it is, right
Yeah.
there.
So it's hard to see, but basically it's these trees are in the universe, and there's Earth down at the bottom, way down here in the cosmos, and that the roots are carrying and encompassing the Earth. And then there's cosmic energy and light, and they're all feminine trees with their arms out. This such a, again, synchronicity is how the divine speaks, in my opinion. And so um I I had seen this image 20 years ago at least. I mean, it was quite a long time ago. And I was so captivated by it because it has these also butterflies in the colors of chakras woven up and into the tree lines. Um, and it's just a stunning image. And I decided that that was the first image that I ever painted as a mural, and it was such a beautiful meditative experience, and I it was the cover of an oracle deck, and so I just thought, whoa, I had to have it, and then I ended up painting it in my home as a big mural on this massive wall, and talk about synchronicities. Along the way, I've lost the deck. It's been many years. And moving, coming to Whidbey Island in the little town that's very close to us, I think it's Langley, is that right? Um, there's an art gallery that a girlfriend and I were, just bopping around, and we went into this art gallery, and literally as I come into the door, there's a card stand, that rotates with all these different cards on it, and right at eye level is this card, the exact same card, and I scooped it up, and I'm like, oh my God, I like, what are the odds? And I asked the lady behind the desk, and it's a very, gallery. And she said, oh yeah, that's one of the owner's original pieces he did many years ago. And I'm like, wait, what? And she says, yeah, like this is his gallery, and he's the original artist, and it blew my mind. Um, and so again, it's that connection that the universe uses, that it knows what is going to land for us. It knows our hearts and what ignites it and what will create the resonance that will allow us to recognize that synchronicity. And I was astounded. I was giddy. And to know that, like, the place that I'd been called to explore Blissful Earth and to meet bliss, like this was also the place where this, you know, other amazing being lives, and his own gallery. And then of course finding out shortly thereafter, or that bliss was so connected to the trees and had that reverence to the trees and the feminine. um, uh, and it it speaks so much to the magic and to what is available to us. And I also wanted to touch back on, just briefly, this um, the types of trees, and the book called The Ringing, or it's a series called The Ringing of the Cedars, and I'm sure we're all familiar with it, but it reminds me of the cedar trees when she was speaking about it up in Siberia, and this up in, way out in the middle of nowhere in Russia, and how in that tribe folklore and legend that the trees were, keepers of the cosmic wisdom that they actually brought in through the aurora borealis, the codes of life, and the cosmic codes that were then rooted into earth, similarly to what you were speaking to earlier. And I also realized that that series speaks about becoming into right relation again with earth and with community, and how to do that, and the right use of power, And yeah, it just, I, I, I find it just serendipitous that these things are that we're reminded of these things and that we get to giggle about it, like literally just be like, wow, like, okay, you know. And then I kind of get really juiced and I'm like, let's get this party started, guys, let's go. You know. And I really, bliss uh has been a joy to be near and to commune with and to witness as a soul that is so devoted to that relationship and fostering that relationship, so pure of heart in that way. And it has been a true joy to be here for as long as I have been, and walk the land. And I'm really excited for anyone else that gets to come, uh, because it is visceral, it is palpable, especially when, like Leslie said, when you're in those trees and in your, I call that grove of cedars. um, I'm not sure how Bliss feels about this, but with Brendan being at the, you know, at the right at that curve where he stands so boldly, um, and then you turn the curve and there's just this, you know, the grove, like she, you know, 13, I think, are, you know, of cedars. And I immediately got this sense of like, oh, you know, he's a smooth operator. He's got a harem up in here. Like, you know, like these, you know, like he's, you know, he's the man.
Yeah,
And yeah,
he's in his masculine sovereign power for sure.
yeah, yeah. And it feels like there's so much adoration and um unification of energy, you know, through the other, you know, like the balance that the other the this 13 provide. um and yeah, like it's a sweet spot. Yeah, for sure. But anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge all that.
Oh my goodness. Alada, your acknowledgement of me just, it touches my heart so much. It really, really touches my heart. I feel so much gratitude for your acknowledgement. Thank you. So I could feel it really comes from your heart. And I also find this conversation so beautiful, so fantastic that the three of you are that we're sharing this together and um, each bringing the you know, our contribution, our hearts, our synchronicities. And yet, whenever synchronicities come now, I giggle. It's just so amazing. And I have something to add about the guy that owns the art gallery in Langley. So his name is Rob Skolton, something like that. And I walked in there after you told me about your card, you know, after you showed me that. And I was in there and I was kind of talking to him. I was talking to him. And then I went in the back and he has a painting of a Himalayan Sherpa. And the Sherpa is carrying a Vogel crystal, like a Vogel crystal that's about 3 feet high, 3 feet long, and he has it strapped to his back. And I went to Rob and I said, "Hey Rob, that that painting is a painting he did." And I said that painting is has the guy has the Sherpa has a Vogel crystal on his back. I said, "Did you know what Vogel crystals were when you did that?" And he said, "No." He said, "I have no idea what a Vogel crystal is." And I said, "Well," I said, "I'll bring one in and I'll show you, but it is identical to the one you put in this painting." I mean, it's got the angles, it's got everything, it's got the facets around it. I mean, it's incredible. It's like that he knew of this crystal. In fact, they mine the this one I got this one came from the Himalayas. I think this one might have as well, but I'm not sure about this one. But I know this one came from the Himalayas, the clear quartz, because they you can't get clear quartz really mined in the United States, and then Brazil won't allow you to take clear quartz out of the country. So so I got this one from a guy from India that gets them from the Himalayas. So anyway, so another synchronicity that this guy was not conscious of Vogel crystals, and then he puts it in his painting. I mean, pretty incredible. Hey, Jennifer.
Hi, my contribution is just breadcrumb related. It's not really off, it's kind of off topic. Last night I was diving into a Vogel crystal article, and then I was led to astrology of place. And the reason I'm mentioning the astrology of place is it was talking about perhaps like Venus representing your strong core of love. And my thought was when you were talking about Peru was where you connected with the cedar grove, perhaps part of your Venus in your place astrology of place is really strong in Peru, or it could be another of the planets that gives you a core essence. I right now they're escaping me, but it really was hitting me really hard last night that there's some truth in this, and so I just thought I would share that maybe we can get activated. And also another astrologer had mentioned that you don't necessarily have to go to that place, but if you focus your intention on that place, if you know it's of a real connection to you on some level, the actual attention and intention on that place can manifest certain magic. Those are my words, but
Yeah, we don't have to be there in person at all. Thanks. Thank you, Jennifer.
sure.
So I had another story, a tree story I wanted to share with you. And this comes from a woman here on Whidbey Island. And I was at the Unity Church a number of years, many years ago, probably 10 years ago. And once a year at the Unity Church, they have three people from the congregation come up and tell a story rather than have a minister. They have like traveling ministers that come through. They don't have like a regular minister. And they once a year they would bring up people from the congregation would come in and tell their story. So this one woman, and she told me I could use her name and I could share. I had a radio station at the time, and she told me I could tell this story on the radio stations. So I did actually. But anyway, so her name is Betty, and I don't even know if she's still around. She was probably in her mid 80s or something when she told this story. And she when she was a young woman in her early 20s or so, she had two children. She was married and she had a 5-year-old. His name was Daniel, and she had like a 2-year-old. And then one day, Daniel just collapsed, and he was just out of the blue. He just collapsed, and they took him to a neurologist, and they put him. They were doing surgery, and he died during surgery. And of course, her and her husband were just totally devastated to lose their son that right out of, just so immediately. And so she had so actually I'm going to read, this is in my book, so I'm going to read this so you can get a sense of her words and her story. So right before that, I say in the book, this story continues to hold a special place in my heart. I'm probably going to cry telling this story because it's so beautiful. Whenever I seek to remember the significance of trees, I reflect on Betty's adventure, which she graciously permits me to share. So 50 years ago, I already told that part. Okay, so here's Betty's story. So she says, for the months that followed the death of my son, it was hard to wake up in the morning. It was challenging to go to sleep at night. It was difficult to just live. A couple of months later was the beginning of spring, and one day I woke up and I decided to clean the house the best I could muster, she said. I decided to go outside, cut some flowers, and bring them into the house. I said to myself, I will feel better. I'm going to be able to cope. So I went outside to cut trees from um, I cut, I went to cut quince blossoms. So there was a quince tree and they had these beautiful blossoms in the spring. They're just amazing. They're just like flowers cover the whole tree. She said, I began shaking like a leaf. Good choice of words, huh? And she said, I can't do to you what has happened to me. I can't take your blossoms. And,
Well,
and right away, the tree spoke to her. She'd never heard a tree speak before. And the tree spoke to me and it said, nothing is ever lost. It simply changes form. Look out into the yard and you'll see what we mean. And Betty looks out into the yard and she realizes that everything was frequency, everything was energy, everything was shimmering, and everything was love. I saw a bird and it was frequency, a shimmering frequency, and the fence, the grass, and the tree were all a part of it. I could commune with all of it in that moment. It was a lovely, energetic soup of frequency, and I was part of it. And I asked the tree, why is it that a few minutes ago I saw you as bark, trunks, and branches? And the tree said, in the nanoseconds that we first perceive one another, we agree on how we're going to relate. That entire moment, enveloped in this love, in this frequency, in this energy, is what sustained me. It's been a truth I've held in my heart. This still holds true for me, and I know it's true for all. For 4 months after, I could only see all the beings as energy, all the grass, everything was energy. So this quince tree spoke to me and altered my reality, and I could not share this with my husband. We divorced soon after because he could not process the devastation together and gain a new perspective on this loss. He could not share in my new perspective that this was not a loss, that this was something that I gained. And so Betty's sharing expanded my understanding of the potential of tree consciousness. And then, so I wrote this 50 years after Betty's experience. And when I was writing her, after I finished writing her story for the book, this quince tree came to me and it said to me, I'm going to cry when I'm reading this, it's too much. So we were aware of Betty's significant loss and the effect it had on her family. Once she was prepared, we encouraged her to tidy her home, engaging in activities that would uplift her spirit. And then she noticed the stunning quince tree with remarkable spring blossoms. So they inspired her to clean her house and to go out and cut these blossoms and to have that interaction and experience the radiance, the vibrational frequency of all these, of nature around her. They did that to her. So this is the quince tree again speaking. So because Betty was mindful of not wanting to impose on us what had been inflicted upon her, it became an ideal moment for us to convey there is no death. Everything merely transforms. The transformation of leaves in the fall, the emergence of new growth in the spring, and the cycle of birth and death are all examples of this. Betty and her son, Daniel, had an agreement that he would come into her life and have a beautiful sharing of love for only 5 years. That was their agreement. And then he would leave the physical plane. They had many lifetimes together, and he has always been with her. He never left. So when when there is a passing of a child, the parents, of course, are devastated. They focus solely on the loss and the emptiness, but that perception is not accurate. We introduced her to a realm she had never known, where everything sparkles with reality. Everything sparkles with reality, is in constant motion, and is vibrantly alive. Every blade of grass, every tree, every plant, and every person contributes to a vibrant interplay of love and beauty. That was one of the significant advantages that Betty gained from her experience of losing her son. She would never have had that experience if she hadn't lost Danny. And Danny was present in that moment with her when she experienced that. And he was elated and filled with joy. And filled with joy that his mother could release her pain and embrace his love, along with the love that has always surrounded her in nature. If Daniel had not passed, she would never have had this experience and the benefits she continues to appreciate to this day. Now, these are my words. So I feel a deep sense of appreciation for Betty. Her experience has transformed my understanding of the potential of trees and how trees play this significant role in, just like I described that, how they did it with Bill, how they played this role to get Bill out of here in a way where no one got hurt and it was the best for everyone. And so one of my roles is to reveal the possibilities of tree consciousness to humanity, emphasizing the resources available to us. So when I put that in the book, my editor said, "Oh, you shouldn't put that story in." She didn't want me to put stories in there because I had lots of stories, but I said no. I said other stories, no, but I said this story is going in there. So she relented and we put it in. But even when I read this, I'm just so amazed that 50 years later, that tree came to me and told me. I mean, we don't even know if that tree is alive, but it's the quince tree. There's actually a quince tree up at the Whitby Institute, which is just about, a 15-minute walk from my house. And whenever it's in blossom in the spring, I just stop and feel its radiance. So,
Beautiful.
it's so amazing how they get involved in our lives. That tree was involved in her life. It didn't cause the death, but it caused the healing. Without the tree inspiring her to go out and cut blossoms to clean her house, she couldn't get up for months or so. She couldn't even get out of bed. She couldn't even clean her house. She couldn't do anything to raise her spirits because she was so devastated. You know, and so many people are when they lose a child like that. It just devastates the husband. And a lot of times, especially if it's like a teenage suicide, the family almost always breaks up because they just can't deal with the pain of it, of the loss. But that tree helped her to do that, change her life. And like to the 50 years later, she still was telling the story like it happened yesterday, and how much gratitude. And she doesn't know all those things that I I I was going to tell her if I saw her, but I haven't seen her. But all those things that I received, I don't even know if she knows that about how she and Daniel were together many lifetimes, and they had this agreement that he was going to come for 5 years and then he was going to leave. I don't know if she knows that. So if I ever see her, maybe synchronistically, I'll see her and I'll tell her that. So we'll see.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jen.
I was thinking, well, last night I was drawn to, I don't have the right name for it, but it's the circle of the year, the wheel of the year, and back, our ancestors used to honor nature and the seasons. And there's the season of death and the season of rebirth, and and things you can do to stay in touch with the seasons. And I think perhaps they handled death better than we do. And I don't know why I'm talking about death. Oh, because your example, I'm glad you put the example in the book. Seriously, that really touched me when I read that. Because I was going, I remember this story, and then it was in the book. That's why. But yeah, there's something to, I felt for a long time, ceremony and gathering leaves in the fall and whatever you do. I don't know what they do, or when they'd make a crown of flowers. There's something to being in touch with the seasons and nature. And I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I think we've gotten away from it so much, maybe for thousands of years. And there's magic around us. We just need to be present. So, I don't know.
Well, it's like the winter solstice, people don't celebrate the darkness, and winter solstice is a great time to do that. Not only is it the return of the sun, but it's also the honoring and celebrating darkness and stillness and, retreating into oneself and being quiet for a while, honoring that.
Going into the womb or the still point, or yeah, I think you can even discover magic there. Yeah. And that's just coming to me because I've always had terrible seasonal affective disorder. But now I'm realizing that it's just a quiet time to recharge. And yeah, there's something to all the seasons.
I'm not ready for that darkness yet, though. I'm still, I'm still enjoying the light.
Oh, I know. I know. Oh, but totally off topic, but how's your air quality there in Washington?
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, we never have a problem with air quality
Oh,
here.
because the
There's
fires are
everything. Because oh
okay.
yeah, well, if there's fires on the peninsula, then we would get that. But there aren't really fires on the peninsula very often.
Okay. I was just trying to find another reason to come visit you both in Washington. Sorry. Clean air.
Clean air is a good way. Yeah, you should come.
No. Mm.
Yeah. So this thing about I just have a. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but it's something similar that one time I was doing a workshop in Minnesota with Christine Day. She's a Pleiadian ambassador, and I was doing a workshop there, and there were probably 50 people from around the world came to this workshop, and so it was pretty well attended, and it was a 4-day workshop, and and Christine is like, well, she's really changed a lot. In the beginning, I've been working with her for like 12 years, and in the beginning, she was very hard. Like she had very little patience for people, not getting things right or making mistakes, whatever. And she would just have this tone of impatience, and I just learned to, because what I got from the Pleiadians, she was a Pleiadian. They would just channel through her. They would like not just she wouldn't just channel them, but she would actually go up on their ships and interact with them and stuff. And but anyway, so we're at the workshop, and this is about how Lemurians and Pleiadians get involved in our lives, just like the tree spirits do. So I'm at this workshop, and I'm with a friend of mine, Janice, who lives here on the island, and we went together, and we were sharing a hotel room, and and so at the end of the first day, we go into the hotel room. We were like tired, and so we were talking and stuff. So we had to get up at 3:30 in the morning because we're starting at 4 in the morning, and so. But we had talked about how Christine was like really impatient with people, and we were doing this meditation of they were like they had built like a stone circle. They brought in these huge stones that were like 8, 10 feet tall, and put them in the circle. And then we were doing these meditations, like walking towards stones and releasing and that kind of thing. And it was really it was complicated, the meditation, and people were in a meditative state, so they weren't able to really think clearly about what to do, what she was telling people to do. And she was like getting angry and impatient with people that they weren't doing it right. you know? And of course, and people were just like, everyone was like pretty upset about it, you know, but nobody was saying anything because she had such a strong presence. You don't tell Christine something that she's doing wrong because she was, she was, she was, she was raised in a satanic cult in Australia, and she watched other children being eaten, and um, she probably thought she was going to be eaten. I mean, you just can't imagine what that would do to your inner child, you know. And so, I mean, she put that in her book, so I'm not like revealing anything that's secret. But it just shows like a lot of these people that are really strong channels have such horrible, horrible backgrounds, you know, for some reason. But anyway, so I'm talking to Janice, and I said, "Boy, this is, you know, what are we going to do? You know, this is so many people are everyone's affected by this negativity come from Christine." And so we get into bed, and we were just friends, and we had separate beds. But she was my massage therapist, so she had seen me naked many times. But um, so I'm in bed, I'm trying to go to sleep, and all of a sudden these Lemurians come in. And Chestnut, my partner, my twin flame, was one of them. And Chestnut comes to me and she says, you have to tell Christine to stop doing what she's doing. You have to tell her to stop treating people this way. And I said, you want me to tell her that? I said, no. I said, you tell her. I said, why don't you guys tell her? You have a lot more influence than I do. And they said, no. They said it has to be a human. It has to be a human being that tells her. And I said, well, I'm not going to tell her. And then Chestnut, she blackmailed me. She said, if you don't tell her, I'm not going to let you go to sleep. I said, what? You would do that to me? I said, I have to get up at 3:30 in the morning and you would keep me up if I don't promise to tell her? She said, yeah. She said, this has to happen. She said, if you don't do this, she said, people are going to start leaving. Even if they come from around, the people are going to stand for this, you know, and because it was ridiculous to come this far and to want this healing and then to have this criticism. It was triggering everyone's like inner critic, you know, and critical parent aspect, you know. And and so the reason why I'm telling this story is because again, and Chestnut said to me, she said, just tell her what I'm telling you, and then we'll take care of everything. You don't have to worry about repercussions. We'll take care of it. And I said, you're sure? And she said, yes. I promise you, we'll take care of it. And she said, you're the only one that can do this. Because I was like a marriage therapist for many years, and I oftentimes had to confront people, you know. And they knew that I could do that. You know, they said just do it in a loving way. Don't be critical or anything. Just tell her in a loving way, and do it in front of everyone. Do it in front of the whole group. So here we were. We it wasn't a chance to do it until after lunch. So right after lunch, Christine talked about what we were going to do in the afternoon, and I said, I have something I need to say. And I said, I'm prefacing this with the Lemurians came to me and they told me to tell you this, Christine. They told me they would take care of everything. So she looked up, she goes, what? And I said, they're telling me to tell you that you have to stop criticizing people and being impatient with them. She crying because she looked at me and tears started rolling down her cheek. And I'd never seen her. I'd been with her for years. I'd never seen her cry or be vulnerable in that way. Never seen her be vulnerable. And see, that's why they set it up that way. So not only did she become vulnerable, but they went around the room and everyone talked about their critical parent, their inner critic, and how Christine was triggering that, and how grateful they were that they were getting this opportunity to heal that with Christine. And that's exactly what these Lemurians were doing. They knew that I could do this. that I had to do it. And the Chestnut even said, this is one of the reasons why you're here at this workshop, is to do this. And they knew that it would be a healing for all these people, and for everyone went around and talked about how they felt their inner child was healed as a result of, if Christine hadn't done that, none of that would have happened. And none of their inner children would have gotten the attention, the emotional attention that it needed to get. And Christine wouldn't have gotten that either. And it was probably more healing. Well, it was very healing for Christine, for her to touch into that vulnerable child part of herself, which was probably so buried, experiencing that kind of childhood trauma in that cult. So, so that again, that's another story of how they get involved in our lives, and they're doing it all the time. They're giving us these breadcrumbs, as you could call it, Jennifer. They're giving us these breadcrumbs. Our higher self, our star avatar, is giving us these breadcrumbs of synchronicities, and each of the synchronicities is a total gift. And that's why we laugh and giggle, because they're so powerful, and they're just so beyond, ordinary reality, you know. I wanted to tell that, but
Wow, that's great.
That reminds me of in the Big Dipper, the seven stars are different qualities of Christ consciousness. And that reminds me of the seventh quality, which is believing in the wisdom and power of the light, meaning that when things appear that they're, you can lose faith because, oh my God, look at this is going on. She's supposed to be. But if we understand what you just said, like there's a wisdom and a power in the light. Sometimes it does this to go this way, and we just have to kind of relinquish to the fact that we trust it and, let it play out, hold its highest wisdom in our heart and belief system.
yeah,
And that helps us develop a relationship too with it, I think.
yes, yeah, definitely, exactly, yeah. And not to judge something. Oh, this is bad. Like, especially like if I get into a conflict with a friend and it's like difficult, it's like, oh, this is bad. But it's not, because it's the opportunity to heal the relationship. Because when you go through a difficult time with a friend and you can heal or repair the damage that might be done, that relationship has more trust than if you hadn't had that connection, if you hadn't had that repair. And so those are all blessings.
And then what you're saying, really, this whole conversation is elucidating that there's just so many ways that it comes through to us that we have this relationship with creation, through the trees, through the instances, through human interactions.
Yes.
So just the everyday stuff, but it's not. That's just the framework to move things around. But it's all innervated by this, we've all said this incredible magic or miracle.
Yeah, and it's about getting involved in the interdimensional world. You know, if if we were just in the physical world, we wouldn't have talked about any of this today. And that's it's such a blessing to be able to do that. To have these interdimensional experiences and share them with each other. Hey, Carlotta. Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to chime in on this one because we've touched on something that I really feel has been like honestly my life's work, and that is you use the term interdimensional and this sense of relating, right? Where we're talking about relating and how we receive and exchange these energies, whether it's peaceful or conflict or joy, right? It's these are all essences of energy, and this interdimensional uh, concept, and from someone who, and I think it's the hero's journey, right? Like we're all on our own hero's journey and in our own arc of becoming aware of this multidimensional state of reality. And for this interdimensional, to me, uh, being able to trust the process of when we come into relation with others and there's some sort of dissonance, to me, it must, what I've learned is that that and that point where we can detect the dissonance, that is the very first key to our own, the invitation to recognize our own interdimensional um, uh, uh, state of being. Like, where, what am I standing on here? What am I like what I am being is what I am beaming, right? And so it's like, what is it about what I'm holding so firm to that I'm willing, uh, consciously or not, to be in a state of dissonance with another? Like, what's at stake here? And to really understand, like, that's the work. The work isn't about changing other. The work is about discovering what's in self and to create the harmony in self first and foremost, and therefore becoming a clear channel and understanding the nuances and understanding how to harvest what's presenting in a way that can uh, ignite that revelation to where we can be in right relation. And that is how, through relation with others, is how we can do that, that we detect, oh, you know, we all have trauma, we all have wounds, we all have, these aspects, but it's how are we relating to them? And getting to a point of true integration must come from within. We have to know our own interdimensional landscape and how to navigate it in such a way to where we can become honest and full of integrity. And from that place, and that can take lifetimes. And then from that place we can actually become uh, advocates and agents of beauty, and agents of um, being able to foster these deep relationships with others where it's true intimacy, where we're able to get gritty and in a state of like, oh, I didn't recognize that, or or reverence of like, oh, you witness and experience this in this way, and I'm experiencing in maybe my way, but it doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just yes and so I feel like this is really something that I find when we are in that precipice with self or other, where we feel that dissonance. That's the invitation to go in and do your check yourself, and recognize there's an invitation for a deeper level of your beauty that is capable of emerging. If so, it's like the low-hanging fruit. If so, recognize we can harvest that, and by doing so gracefully, takes time, right? It takes time to be able to deliver gracefully, like you were speaking about this woman. um, we have to be able to uh, carry one another in the light of, I see you, and I see the whole you, not just the wounded you that's presenting right now or that's responding right now. But we can get to the point where we recognize the sacred self in the other at all times, regardless of if they're being reactive or acting out from a unconscious wound. We can hold them in that, like, okay, this is a, a journey now we are all in, like you were describing at this retreat. And for me, that is a fantastical opportunity because it expedites things. It creates quantum healing. And for that, I've learned with all my heart to trust life, to trust the process of what's unfolding, and to hold it as precious and sacred. And the only thing I can do is return myself to that compassionate state of saying, I hold you. Like you are me. Me is a we. And I hold you in your wholeness so that you can remember it. You can return to it. And by doing that, that allows the guards to come down. And this beautiful occasion, like you're speaking of, that happens. That has to be done with that, like, I see you in this moment, but I see you in the cosmic moment, as an agent of something that's ready to be sowed for all of us. And then that ripple effect happens like that. And for me, that's where I understand, like, oh, conflict is an invitation for us to conjure that state of expanded, like, it's okay. It's supposed to feel uncomfortable because that's what's the indicator of, like, oh, pay attention here. There's something very potent here. And to handle it with care instead of carrying our swords into the equation, right? Yeah, so I find that there's more and more opportunity to trust the process and to give one another the benefit of the doubt. So potent. It's just to hold that space, create that space for that benefit of the doubt, rather than getting up in your head, like drop down and stay in your heart and just be like, I know, there's more here to be discovered. Let's find that. That's going to be the middle way, right? What emerges when our hearts are fully engaged and our head is just going, okay, I see, and I'm going to stand here with wide open arms. Yeah, I love that story you tell.
Thanks, Carlotta. I loved your interpretation of all that as well, and your beautiful description of how, well, what you're describing is the new earth. That's that way of approaching conflict or difficulties or emotional challenges. That's the new earth. That's our interdimensional. That's the benefits of moving into that. It's moving into the heart. Really, is what it is. Interdimensional heart. Oh man, I'm exhausted in a good way. Oh.
I just came across um something that really interested me, and it has to do with what you've just been addressing, but it's more for people that aren't quite where you are, Carlotta, where they're more they're in the trigger. And it was an interesting thing. I think it was based on your moon placement at birth, but it was broken down into elements. And I'm saying this because it's a way to relate with each other. And it's divided into elements. So there are three signs. The air signs have a different way of dealing with dissonance and stress than the earth signs. And so, like, perhaps an earth sign, when they're triggered, they go and clean, 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 clean. And then so it appears to the air sign that they're not, the air sign wants to speak, speak, speak to fix the problem. And so right there, we have different ways of dealing with the dissonance. And and then there's another sign, I believe it's one of the signs, they have to withdraw. They have to withdraw and regroup, and they cannot. And so we're dealing, I really liked this tool, and I have to think about it more. But it really, to me, it really made sense. Yeah, it's just something to look at, just because sometimes we're not able to process the way you are. You've really, wow. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Okay, well, to be honest, and I know we're closing in on time here, so I'll make this really brief. To be honest, I have been deep in the modalities, what I do for my career, and so I wouldn't have come to this place, without getting to through the modalities similarly that you are speaking of, that help, the gene keys and the human design and astrology. It's like those three are all based off of ancient wisdoms, and that indicate and literally reveal these attributes within you. And when I saw when I was introduced to mine, and I saw, they literally tells you there are arenas of life that we all navigate, but then it tells you like your specific to you frequency band with the shadow and the gift. And I was just like, oh my gosh, guilty, 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 guilty. Like I know these frequencies, and I know this withdrawal, and I know these wounded ways, right? It's like, oh my gosh. And it humbled me like none other. And once that landed in my heart, it popped me out of my head. I'm just like, I now have a map and a bridge, that I can practice. And it's also understanding what's correct for you. Like that's the beauty of these modalities that were given through the ancients, is like, what is correct for you? If you're in Aries and you want to like go in right now and another one's retreating, it's really helpful to understand who you are navigating with and what's correct for them, so that you can give them and yourself the spaciousness again to process in a genuine way. Because without that, you're not going to find what's ready to be harvested. And so it's a very nuanced but yet empowering information that fast tracked where I'm at, and it enables me to assist others in that way. And it's astounding to know what's correct for you. And even like, when we're placed in our families perfectly, we're all triggered by our families and our, certain dynamics, but it's perfection because it's always going to direct you to that inner landscape again, and what I can do, because we can only change ourselves. We can only evolve ourselves. Yeah. And so, yeah, trust me, the, 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 the wounds of my childhood did not define me. They refined me. And
Beautiful.
when we get to that place, then we can really start to be so appreciative of what we consider to be toxic or wounding or trauma, because those were the agents of, that polarization that helped us see the parts of us and to relate to humanity in a different way. So, yeah.
Gosh, I love this group. Oh my gosh. I could just talk about anything with you. Seriously, now I want to talk gene keys, but I know time is.
Yeah. I just didn't want to be put on a pedestal because
No.
honestly, it's like, we are all here and we're all in it. We're all traversing our own journeys, and we all benefit from communing with one another. And so, yeah.
Whoa. Okay. Oh, I wanted to show you my t-shirt. So I when I wear this t-shirt in public, it's
Show
such a
it one more
great
time. Show it
it's
one more time. Please show it one more time. Okay. Oh, it's beautiful. Did you do it?
no,
Oh,
I got a couple of girls were selling tie-dye at the farmers market a number of years ago, and I asked them to make me one, and they made this. But when I wear this, certain people they see it and they comment, "Oh, I love your shirt." And when they do that, then I come back at them with some kind of comment about their heart or something like that. Oh, I appreciate your sharing your heart, with me, whatever. And it's such a great way to engage people around the heart. It's really fun.
love
I had
it.
no idea this shirt was going to do that. So,
Oh,
so in closing, oh, what a fantastic um, gathering today. I'm so grateful for everything that I was able to share and that you all shared in response to that, the stories. The stories are just the greatest teachers. Oh my gosh, it's, Christ used that method as well. but they're just such great teachers to be able to tell the story of the trees. So, anybody, Leslie, did you want to say anything in closing? You've been kind of quiet for the last what?
Just listening. We said so much, I think. I mean, yeah, I love these modalities. I love all that you spoke of. And, I love the modality of the stars. That's what I feel the resonance with stellar nations. But they're all wisdom termas. So, and we're coming into a beautiful time of integrating it all. Yeah. So I don't really have anything to say beyond that, but it's
Oh,
fun. It's fun. It is fun. I mean, creation's meant to be fun. We forget that.
yes, create, yes. That's why it's like we giggle when we get these synchronicities because there's so much joy in it. And we're not coming into the period, like you said, Leslie, we are in it. We are deep in it. But
No, I agree with you on that, but there there's still levels of waking up. We can always wake up more,
oh yeah.
but I think the collective's waking up in quantum leaps, whether they realize it or sometimes people don't realize it. I think we're so blessed to have, well, just to have these conversations and to have found the maps, like Carletta said, that you found these maps and yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I don't have any more words. I think I appreciate all this. Thank you.
I have a question.